Hello, my name is Ariel, and today I want to share a story that is very close to my heart. It's about a young boy who grew up in a small town in America. His life was not easy. His family struggled every day. But he always held on to a dream to make life better for himself and the people he loved. The boy was the oldest child in his family. He had a little sister who was only 6 years old. His father worked as a janitor, cleaning offices, sweeping floors, and washing windows. Every morning, his father left for work before sunrise and returned late at night. His hands were rough and his body was tired, but he never complained. He was doing everything he could to take care of his family. At home, the boy's mother worked just as hard. She didn't have a job outside the house, but she made sure everything at home was in order. She cooked meals, cleaned the small house, and helped the boy with his homework. She always told him, "As long as we have each other, we have enough." Her words gave him comfort, but deep down, he could see the sadness in her eyes. She wanted more for her children. Their house was very small, with thin walls that couldn't keep the cold out in winter. The roof leaked when it rained, so they placed buckets around the house to catch the water. The furniture was old, the floors were uneven, and there wasn't much space for the family of 4. They didn't have new clothes, so the boy often wore shirts that were too small or pants with holes in them. At school, things weren't much easier for him. Many of the other kids had new shoes, nice backpacks, and shiny school supplies. The boy, on the other hand, carried his books in a torn bag and wore shoes that didn't fit well. Some kids laughed at him. "Look at his shoes. They have holes." One boy shouted, and others joined in with laughter. The boy's face turned red with embarrassment, but he stayed quiet. He didn't want to argue or fight. He just wished they would stop. He didn't have many friends because he was too shy to talk to others. He didn't want anyone to know how hard life was at home. Instead, he stayed quiet and focused on his studies. His grades were good, but he often felt lonely. Despite everything, he held on to his dream. He promised himself that one day he would make life better for his family. He didn't know how yet, but he believed in his heart that it was possible. One day, he sat in the corner of his room, thinking about his future. His little sister was drawing pictures with crayons on old pieces of paper, and his mother was washing clothes by hand in a bucket. He thought about his father, who was still at work, cleaning offices late into the night. The boy clenched his fists and whispered to himself, "I will find a way. I will help my family." Even though he was only a child, his heart was full of determination. He decided that no matter how hard things were, he would never give up. He would study hard and look for opportunities to make a better life for his family. His journey was just beginning, but he knew he would need all the courage and hope he could find. Thank you for listening to this story. If you're enjoying it so far, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next part. Every day after school, I would rush home to help my mom with small tasks. Even though I was young, I wanted to lighten her burden, even just a little. One afternoon at school, I sat quietly at my desk while the other kids laughed and played during recess. I liked to sit alone. It was safer that way. But that day, something unusual happened. My teacher, Mr. Thompson, walked into the classroom and noticed me sitting in the corner. He was a kind man with warm eyes, always patient with his students. He approached me with a smile and asked, "How are you doing today?" I looked up, surprised. I didn't expect him to notice me, much less talk to me. "I'm fine," I said softly, though it wasn't the truth. Mr. Thompson sat down beside me. "You know, you're a quiet and hard-working boy. I can see that. But sometimes being quiet can make us feel lonely." His words felt like he could see into my heart. I didn't know how to respond, so I just nodded. He patted my shoulder gently. "If you ever want to talk, I'm here." Sometimes sharing your worries can make them lighter. I wanted to tell him about my family, how hard my father worked, how my mother never stopped trying, and how my little sister deserved more than crayons and old paper. But I didn't know how to explain all that, so I stayed quiet. A few days later, Mr. Thompson asked me to stay after class. I was nervous, wondering if I had done something wrong. But when the classroom emptied, he smiled at me and said, "I need a little help keeping the classroom clean. Would you like to help me after school? I can pay you a few dollars each week." I stared at him, not sure if I had heard him correctly. "You mean you'll pay me?" "Yes," he said. "It's a small job, but I think you'll do it well. And I know you could use the extra money." For the first time in weeks, I felt a spark of hope. "I'd like that. Thank you, Mr. Thompson." From that day on, I stayed after school to clean the classroom. I swept the floors, wiped the desks, and made sure everything was tidy for the next day. It was hard work, but I didn't mind. Every dollar I earned felt like a step toward helping my family. I saved the money carefully, hiding it in a small box under my bed. My parents didn't know about the job at first. I wanted to surprise them when I had saved enough to buy something for the house. Each evening as I worked with Mr. Thompson, he would ask me about my dreams and encourage me to keep studying. "Education is the key," he often said. "It opens doors you can't even imagine yet." His words stayed with me, and I began to see my studies as a way to reach my dreams. Though life was still hard, I felt stronger. I wasn't just a boy trying to survive anymore. I was someone working toward something bigger. If you'd like to follow more of this journey, subscribe to the channel. It's a small click, but it means a lot. The extra money I earned cleaning the classroom made a small difference in our home. One evening, I came home with a loaf of fresh bread I had bought using the money I saved. When I handed it to my mom, she looked surprised. "Where did you get this?" she asked, holding the bread in her hands. I smiled shyly. "Mr. Thompson is paying me to help him clean the classroom after school. I wanted to help." Her eyes filled with tears, and she pulled me into a tight hug. "You're such a good boy," she whispered. I felt a warmth in my heart I hadn't felt in a long time. For the first time, I felt like I could truly contribute to my family. The bread became more than just food that night. It was a symbol of hope. My father smiled at me when he came home and heard the story. "You're making us proud," he said, patting my shoulder. I didn't say much, but his words stayed with me. I wanted to make him even prouder. The next day at school, I worked harder than ever. I listened carefully in every lesson and took notes as best I could. Mr. Thompson noticed my effort and sometimes stayed after class to help me with difficult subjects like math and science. "You're smart," he said one afternoon. "You just need to believe in yourself." His encouragement gave me confidence. I started to dream bigger. I didn't just want to help my family, I wanted to build a better future for all of us. I wanted to buy my mom a washing machine so she wouldn't have to scrub clothes by hand. I wanted to buy my sister new crayons and paper. And I wanted my father to rest after years of working so hard. But dreams aren't enough on their own. I knew I had to act. So I began waking up earlier to study before school. At night, after finishing my chores, I would sit at the small table in our living room and do my homework. The lamp flickered sometimes, but I didn't let it stop me. I was determined to succeed. At school, the other kids still laughed at my worn clothes and old shoes, but their words didn't sting as much anymore. I had something they didn't on purpose. Whenever I felt upset, I reminded myself why I was working so hard. My family depended on me. One afternoon, as I was walking home, I saw a group of kids playing soccer in the park. They called out, "Hey, come play with us." For a moment, I was tempted to join them, to forget my worries and have fun, but I shook my head. "I have to get home," I said. Walking away wasn't easy. I wanted to play like a normal kid, but I knew I couldn't afford to lose focus. My family's struggles pushed me forward. I reminded myself of the small house we lived in, the thin walls and the leaky roof. I couldn't let myself get distracted. My dreams were too important. The routine became my anchor. School, work, study, repeat. It wasn't glamorous, and it wasn't easy. There were nights I felt so tired that I wanted to give up. But every time that feeling crept in, I thought about my parents' sacrifices and my little sister's smile. They gave me the strength to keep going. One day, while I was helping Mr. Thompson clean the classroom, he said something that stuck with me. "You know, life will always have challenges, but challenges are what make us stronger. Don't ever stop believing in what you can do." I nodded, not fully understanding his words at the time. But as I walked home that evening, I felt a quiet determination growing inside me. I realized that my hard work wasn't just about helping my family. It was about proving to myself that I could rise above my circumstances. If this story is inspiring you, consider subscribing to the channel. It's a small way to stay connected and share this path together. One morning, as I was getting ready for school, I heard my parents talking in the kitchen. Their voices were low, but I could sense the worry in their tone. Quietly, I moved closer to hear. "We don't have enough money to pay all the bills this month," my father said, his voice heavy with exhaustion. "The landlord is already angry about last month's rent." My mother sighed deeply. "I've tried to save every penny, but it's not enough. Everything is so expensive. I don't know what else we can do." Hearing this made my chest tighten. I had always known that life was hard for us, but now the weight of our struggles became clearer. I quietly stepped back, not wanting them to know I had overheard. As I walked to school, my mind raced. I thought about the landlord's threats and the possibility of losing our home. What would we do? Where would we go? At school, I couldn't focus. The words on the blackboard blurred as I thought about my family. The fear of homelessness was overwhelming, but I couldn't let it crush me. I had to find a way to help. That afternoon, while I was cleaning the classroom, Mr. Thompson noticed my distracted expression. "Are you all right?" he asked gently. For a moment, I hesitated. Should I tell him? I wasn't used to sharing my feelings, but something about his kind eyes made me feel safe. I looked up and said softly, "My family is struggling with money." "I don't know how to help them." Mr. Thompson nodded thoughtfully. "I'm sorry to hear that," he said. "Life can be very hard sometimes, especially for families like yours. But remember, you're already doing a lot. Every small effort counts. Keep working hard, and things will get better. Don't lose hope." His words were like a light in the darkness. They didn't solve my problems, but they reminded me that I wasn't powerless. I thanked him and promised myself to work even harder. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, thinking about my parents' worried faces and our small, leaky house. Suddenly, an idea came to me. At school, I had seen some kids selling candy and snacks to make extra money. Maybe I could do the same. The next day, I used a small portion of the money I had saved from cleaning the classroom to buy a few snacks. After school, I shyly approached my classmates. "Would you like to buy some candy?" I asked. At first, I was nervous. What if they said no? What if they laughed at me? But to my surprise, some of them were happy to help. Slowly, I started selling snacks after school and during lunch breaks. It wasn't much, but every dollar I earned felt like a small victory. Weeks passed, and my little business began to grow. I learned how to talk to people and how to save every penny. Eventually, I saved enough money to give my parents a small contribution toward the rent. When I handed the money to my mother, her eyes widened in shock. "Where did you get this?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I've been selling snacks at school," I explained. "It's not a lot, but I hope it helps." She pulled me into a hug, tears streaming down her face. "You're such a good boy," she whispered. "We're so proud of you." That moment filled me with a sense of purpose. I wasn't just a boy struggling to survive anymore. I was someone who could make a difference. Even though the road ahead was still uncertain, I knew I had the strength to face whatever came next. Life began to feel a little brighter with each small step forward. My snack-selling efforts at school weren't just helping my family, they were also helping me grow. I started feeling more confident, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was in control of my future. But even as I worked hard, new challenges arose. One day, I was walking home from school when I saw a group of older boys surrounding a smaller kid. They were pushing him, laughing, and tossing his backpack around. Something inside me stirred. I remembered how it felt to be bullied, to feel small and helpless. Without thinking, I stepped forward. "Hey, leave him alone!" I shouted, my voice stronger than I expected. The older boys turned to me, sneering. "And what are you going to do about it?" one of them asked. My heart raced, but I stood my ground. "It's not right to pick on someone smaller than you. Just leave him alone." For a moment, they hesitated. Then, with a laugh, they tossed the boy's backpack on the ground and walked away. I helped the boy pick up his things, and he looked at me with wide, grateful eyes. "Thank you," he said quietly. "My name is Ben." From that day on, Ben and I became friends. He was shy and quiet, just like I had been. We both knew what it felt like to be on the outside, to struggle in ways other kids didn't understand. Together, we found strength in our shared experiences. One afternoon, while we were sitting under a tree after school, Ben asked, "Why do you work so much?" I see you selling snacks, helping the teacher, and studying all the time." I hesitated for a moment, then decided to tell him the truth. My family is struggling. My dad works hard, but it's not enough. I want to help them. I want to make life better for all of us. Ben listened quietly, his eyes thoughtful. "You're really strong," he said. "I don't know if I could do all that." I smiled. "You'd be surprised at what you can do when you have to." Having a friend like Ben made the hard days feel a little easier. We talked about our dreams, our fears, and the things that kept us going. For me, it was my family. For Ben, it was his dream of becoming a mechanic and opening his own shop one day. One day, during a school assembly, the principal made an announcement. "We're holding a writing contest," she said. "The winner will receive a scholarship to a summer program that will help them improve their skills." My heart raced. A scholarship. This could be my chance to learn more and move closer to my dream. I decided to enter the contest. Over the next few weeks, I spent every free moment working on my essay. I wrote about my family, about our struggles, and about my dream of building a better future for them. Ben read every draft I wrote, giving me feedback and cheering me on. "This is amazing," he said one day. "You're going to win. I just know it." The day of the contest finally arrived. I submitted my essay with a mix of excitement and nerves. It felt like I had poured my heart onto the page, and now all I could do was wait. Days passed, and I threw myself into my usual routine: school, snacks, work, and study. But every night, as I lay in bed, I thought about the contest. I tried not to get my hopes up, but deep down, I couldn't help but dream. One morning, the principal called me into her office. My heart pounded as I walked in, unsure of what to expect. She smiled at me and said, "Congratulations. You won the writing contest." For a moment, I was speechless. I had done it. All my hard work had paid off. I felt a wave of pride and relief wash over me. When I got home, I shared the news with my family. My mom hugged me tightly, tears streaming down her face. "You've made us so proud," she said. Winning the contest wasn't just about the scholarship. It was a reminder that even when life felt impossible, there was always a way forward. It gave me a new sense of confidence and hope, and I knew that this was just the beginning of something bigger. Winning the scholarship felt like a turning point in my life. It gave me hope that my dreams could become a reality. But life didn't pause to celebrate with me. The struggles at home continued, and I knew I needed to do more to help my family. That's when I decided to look for a part-time job. One day, while walking home from school, I saw a sign in the window of a small grocery store: "Help Wanted." My heart raced as I stepped inside. The store smelled of fresh bread and ripe fruit, and the shelves were neatly lined with canned goods and snacks. Behind the counter, a middle-aged man with kind eyes looked up and smiled. "How can I help you?" he asked. "I saw the sign," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Are you still looking for help?" The man nodded. "We are." "Have you ever worked before?" "No, sir," I admitted. "But I'm a hard worker, and I'm willing to learn." He looked at me for a moment, then nodded. "All right, let's give it a try. Can you start tomorrow?" I couldn't believe it. "Yes, thank you so much," I said, a big smile spreading across my face. The next day, I started my first shift. My job was to work at the checkout counter, scanning items and helping customers. At first, I was nervous. What if I made a mistake? What if the customers were rude? But I reminded myself that this was my chance to contribute even more to my family. I couldn't let fear hold me back. My first day was a blur of learning how to use the cash register, greeting customers, and organizing items on the shelves. Some customers were patient and kind, while others were in a hurry and seemed annoyed. But I did my best, and by the end of the day, I felt proud. I was earning money to help my family, and that made every challenge worth it. As the days turned into weeks, I started to feel more comfortable. My coworkers were friendly and showed me the ropes. The store manager, Mr. Jacobs, often stopped by to check on me. "You're doing a great job," he said one afternoon. "Keep it up." Hearing those words gave me the motivation to keep pushing forward, even when the job was tiring. I quickly learned that being polite and helpful made a big difference with the customers. I smiled, greeted everyone warmly, and always tried to go the extra mile. One day, a little girl came through my line holding a bright red balloon. Her eyes sparkled with excitement. "Look at my balloon!" she exclaimed, bouncing up and down. I smiled back at her. "That's a beautiful balloon." "Did you get it at a party?" "Yes." She giggled, her joy lighting up the room. Moments like that reminded me why I was working so hard. Even small connections with people made the long hours worthwhile. Over time, Mr. Jacobs began to trust me with more responsibilities. One afternoon, he pulled me aside. "I'd like to offer you the chance to work in the stockroom," he said. "It'll give you more experience and pay a little more. Are you interested?" I nodded eagerly. Yes, I'd love to. The stockroom was a whole new challenge. I learned how to organize inventory, restock shelves, and keep track of deliveries. It was hard work, but I enjoyed it. Every box I carried and every shelf I stocked felt like another step toward helping my family. But balancing work, school, and family wasn't easy. Some days, I came home so tired that I could barely keep my eyes open to finish my homework. One evening, I sat at the dinner table with my parents, my head resting on my hand. "I'm really busy," I said quietly. "I want to help, but it's hard to do everything." My father reached across the table and put a hand on my shoulder. "You're doing more than enough," he said. "We're so proud of you. Just remember, you don't have to carry everything alone. We're in this together." His words lifted a weight off my shoulders. I realized that while I wanted to do everything, I didn't have to. My family was there to support me, just as I was there to support them. As I continued working at the store, I started to see the bigger picture. My job wasn't just about earning money. It was teaching me skills like responsibility, teamwork, and perseverance. And it was showing me that even small steps could lead to big changes. Working at the grocery store gave me a sense of pride and purpose, but it also opened my eyes to the challenges other young people in my community faced. Many of them struggled to find jobs, just like I had, and some didn't even know where to start. That's when I had an idea maybe I could help. One afternoon, while organizing boxes in the stockroom, I overheard two customers talking about the difficulties young people were having finding work. Their words stayed with me, and later that evening, I brought the idea to Mr. Jacobs. "What if we started a mentorship program here at the store?" I asked. We could teach young people job skills, help them build confidence, and maybe even connect them with opportunities. Mr. Jacobs smiled. That's an excellent idea. Let's make it happen. With his support, I began planning the program. I reached out to local schools and community centers, explaining my vision. To my surprise, many people were excited to get involved. Within a few weeks, we had our first group of participants ready to begin. On the first day of the mentorship program, I stood in front of a small group of young people, my heart pounding with nerves. I wasn't used to speaking in front of others, but I reminded myself why I was there. Taking a deep breath, I started. Welcome, everyone. This program is about more than just learning job skills. It's about believing in yourself and your potential. I know how hard it can be to start, but you're not alone. Together, we can build a better future. The participants listened closely, and I could see the mix of hope and uncertainty in their faces. Some of them reminded me of myself, unsure but determined. We began with the basics: how to prepare for an interview, write a resume, and communicate confidently. As the weeks went on, the group started to bond. They shared their dreams and fears, and we encouraged each other to keep going, even when things felt tough. One participant, a shy girl named Emma, stood out to me. She rarely spoke and seemed nervous around the others. One day, after a workshop, I approached her. "How are you finding the program?" I asked gently. She looked down, hesitating before answering. "It's hard. I don't think I'm good at any of this." I smiled. "I know how you feel. I used to think the same thing about myself. But you don't have to be perfect. You just have to try. And you're already doing that." Her face brightened a little. "Thank you," she said quietly. Over time, I watched Emma grow. She started participating more in workshops and even volunteered to practice interview skills in front of the group. Seeing her confidence blossom reminded me why I had started this program, to give others the encouragement I had once needed. One day, the group took on a community project, cleaning up a neglected park. It was hard work, but we did it together, laughing and sharing stories as we went. By the end of the day, the park looked beautiful, and the sense of accomplishment we all felt was incredible. But not everything went smoothly. One afternoon, a sudden storm undid much of our work, leaving the park a mess again. Some of the participants were disheartened. "What's the point?" one boy said angrily. "We worked so hard for nothing." I stepped forward, trying to lift their spirits. "This isn't the end. We can fix it. Setbacks happen, but they don't have to stop us. Let's show everyone that we don't give up." My words seemed to ignite something in the group. The following weekend, we returned to the park and worked even harder. When we finished, the park was better than ever, and the pride on everyone's faces made every challenge worth it. The mentorship program grew stronger with each passing week. We started inviting guest speakers to share their experiences and organized visits to local businesses. Watching the participants gain confidence and find opportunities was one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. One evening, as I was preparing for the next session, I received an email from a local community college. They had heard about the program and wanted to partner with us to offer workshops on job readiness and life skills. I couldn't believe it. This was a chance to reach even more young people. When I told my parents the news, they were overjoyed. "You're making such a difference," my mom said, her voice filled with pride. I felt a deep sense of gratitude, not just for the opportunity, but for all the people who had believed in me along the way. The program wasn't just helping others. It was helping me grow, too. The mentorship program continued to grow, and so did my confidence. With the partnership from the community college, we expanded our workshops, bringing in guest speakers, offering resume building sessions, and teaching practical life skills. It felt incredible to see how much the program was helping the young people in our community. One day, I received a letter from the mayor's office. They wanted to recognize the program for its positive impact on the community. I couldn't believe it. The same boy who once felt invisible and powerless was now being acknowledged for making a difference. I shared the news with Mr. Jacobs and my family, and they were thrilled. "This is all because of your hard work," Mr. Jacobs said with a proud smile. The day of the recognition ceremony arrived, and I stood on a small stage in front of a crowd of people. My heart pounded as the mayor spoke about the program and the changes it had brought to our town. When it was my turn to speak, I took a deep breath. "This program isn't just about finding jobs or building resumes," I began. "It's about creating opportunities, lifting each other up, and believing in what we can achieve together. I'm grateful for everyone who supported this journey, from my family to my friends and everyone in this community. Thank you for believing in us." The crowd clapped, and I felt a mixture of pride and humility. This wasn't just my achievement, it was the result of countless people working together, sharing their time, energy, and hope. As the program flourished, I started thinking about the future. I enrolled in evening classes at the community college, focusing on business management. I wanted to learn more so I could expand the program and help even more young people. Balancing work, school, and the mentorship program was tough, but I reminded myself why I was doing it. One evening, after a long day, I received a message from Emma, one of the participants. I got the job I applied for. "Thank you for everything you taught me." Her words filled me with joy. Moments like this made all the hard work worthwhile. As I walked home that night, I thought about how far I had come. The boy who once felt powerless had found his voice. The family that had struggled so much now felt a little lighter. And the community that once seemed indifferent was now a source of strength and inspiration. With the mentorship program thriving, I started dreaming even bigger. What if we could create scholarships for students who wanted to continue their education? What if we could partner with more businesses to offer internships and job placements? The possibilities felt endless. One weekend, we organized a celebration at the store to honor the achievements of the program participants. We handed out certificates and shared stories of success. The atmosphere was filled with laughter, pride, and hope. Standing there, surrounded by so many bright and determined young people, I felt a deep sense of fulfillment. My parents were there too, smiling proudly. My father, who had always worked so hard for our family, put his arm around me and said, "You've made us so proud. You're not just helping our family, you're helping this whole community." His words brought tears to my eyes. I realized that this journey wasn't just about me or my family. It was about building something bigger than ourselves, something that could make a lasting difference. That night, as I sat on the porch of our small home, I looked up at the stars and felt a sense of peace. The challenges I had faced had shaped me into the person I was becoming. They had taught me resilience, hope, and the power of community. The road ahead was still uncertain, but I wasn't afraid. I knew that with hard work, determination, and the support of those around me, anything was possible. My dreams had grown from helping my family to helping others find their own paths to success, and I was ready to take the next step. Thank you for being part of this journey. If this story has touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and stay with us as we continue to explore stories of hope, resilience, and determination.